I've been thinking about this a lot. The idea that somehow everyone else is okay. Like you're the odd one out for feeling heavy, unmotivated, tired of pretending. You look around and it feels like people are moving on with life, laughing, posting, progressing, while you're stuck in your head. And the conclusion you quietly reach is, there must be something wrong with me. I don't think that's true anymore. I think maybe we're all sad. Some people are just better at hiding it, or numbing it, or staying busy enough that they don't have to sit with it. Sad doesn't always look like crying in your room. Sometimes it looks like overworking. Sometimes it looks like joking too much. Sometimes it looks like never slowing down. We've turned sadness into a weakness, something embarrassing, something you're supposed to outgrow. So if you feel things deeply, if stuff hits you hard, if you can't just shake it off, you start calling yourself soft, too sensitive, too emotional, too weak for the real world. But what if you're not soft? What if you're just not numb? Because I've noticed something strange. The people who act the toughest, the most detached, the most unbothered, they're usually running from something. They don't talk about it. They don't slow down long enough to feel it. And we mistake that for strength. We reward emotional shutdown. If you cry, you're fragile. If you feel lonely, you're needy. If something hurts you for a long time, you're told to move on. So you start judging yourself for having a nervous system that actually reacts. You think resilience means not feeling. But that's not resilience. That's suppression. And suppression always collects interest. It comes back later as anger, as burnout, as emptiness, as addictions, as random breakdowns you can't explain. I think the real issue isn't that you're too soft. It's that you're aware. Aware of the gap between how life is sold to us and how it actually feels. Aware that distractions only work temporarily. Aware that pretending costs energy. And that awareness is uncomfortable. So instead of questioning the system, you question yourself. You think, why can't I just be normal? Why do I feel this so deeply? Why does this affect me more than others? Maybe it doesn't. Maybe others just learned earlier how to disconnect. And maybe that's not a win. I'm starting to believe that being soft isn't the problem. Being unsupported is. Being told to toughen up instead of being understood. Being expected to function in a world that doesn't slow down for human emotions. That's where the damage happens. And if this resonates, it doesn't mean you're broken. It might mean you're still intact. I think most of us weren't born hard. We learned it. Somewhere along the way, being open stopped feeling safe. You said how you felt, and it got ignored, minimized, joked about, used against you. So you adjusted. You learned to downplay things. To say, I'm fine, when you weren't. To keep it moving, even when something hurt. And every time you did that, you got rewarded. People liked you more. You were easier to be around, less dramatic. That's how the lesson gets reinforced. Softness costs you socially. If you care too much, you're intense. If you feel deeply, you're unstable. If you need reassurance, you're needy. So you harden, not because you want to, but because you don't want to be left. And eventually, that hardness becomes your personality. You stop checking in with yourself. You stop naming what you feel. You stop expecting support. And from the outside, it looks like strength. But on the inside, something goes quiet. Not peaceful quiet. Numb quiet. And numbness is easier to live with than constant disappointment. So we start glorifying it. We praise people who don't care, who don't attach, who move on fast. We call them mature. But a lot of the time, they're just tired of hoping. I've noticed how early this starts, especially for guys. You're taught that sadness is weakness, that asking for help makes you less of a man, that emotions are something to handle alone. So you either turn them inward or you bury them. Neither option is healthy. And then, when someone stays soft, when they still feel openly, still care, still get hurt, we look at them like they're behind, like they missed the memo. But maybe they didn't miss it. Maybe they just refused it. Because there's a cost to hardening that no one talks about. You lose intimacy. You lose depth. You lose the ability to be moved by things. And the longer you stay disconnected, the harder it is to come back. That's why so many people feel empty, but don't know why. They didn't lose joy, they shut it down. And softness gets blamed because it's visible. Pain you can see makes people uncomfortable. So they tell you to toughen up instead of sitting with you. And that's not advice, that's avoidance. If you've been told you're soft, it probably means you still care. And that might actually be your strength, even if it doesn't feel like one yet. I don't think the answer is to harden completely. But I also don't think softness means letting everything hurt you. There's a difference. Softness isn't about absorbing everything. It's about staying open with boundaries. If you're soft, you feel things faster and deeper. That means you also need more rest, more honesty, more distance from people who treat your feelings like an inconvenience. Soft people don't need to become tougher. They need to become more selective. Selective with who they open up to. Selective with what they internalize. Selective with the voices they let define them. Because being soft in the wrong environment feels like weakness. But being soft in a safe one feels like depth. If you've been told you're too sensitive, ask yourself, too sensitive for who? Too sensitive for what? For a culture that rushes everything? For people who don't know how to sit with emotion? For systems that reward numbness? That doesn't mean something is wrong with you. It might mean you're mismatched. And instead of killing that part of yourself, you might need to protect it. I'm not saying softness is easy. It means you get hurt. It means you care when others don't. It means you notice things people skip past. But it also means you can connect deeply, love fully, and feel meaning instead of just functioning. So I want to ask you, have you been calling yourself soft when really you were just honest? Have you been trying to numb yourself to survive spaces that were never built for you? And if you have, what would change if you stopped apologizing for feeling? You don't need to become colder to make it through life. You just need to stop letting a hard world convince you that sensitivity is a flaw. Drop your thoughts below. I'm curious how this lands for you.